everybody, welcome back to The Many Faces of Alice. I'm Rob.
And I'm Dave. And this week we're going to go way back and dig deep and review a silent version of Alice in Wonderland from 1915.
Yeah, we are. And Dave, interestingly, what is believed to be the first version of Alice in Wonderland was shot in 1903, and it still exists. It's 10 minutes, so so it's definitely interesting to go and watch some of these silent films. There was supposed to be a 1910 version of Alice, but I guess that's a lost film, so okay, Dave, I gotta admit this. I was a little bit skeptical about whether this film could be adapted to silent film because they're both Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass are verbal books, very verbal. So with silent film, you gotta be visual. But I think they, for the most part, they did a pretty good job. For example, Alice in the beginning, Alice and her sister see things that will appear in her dream later on, like the cat. There's a cat in the tree, and they come across a pig at a farm.
Yeah, I liked in the beginning where they, how it started off in the beginning where it shows them inside Alice's house and it shows her mom making tarts, and then eventually her sister comes downstairs and then her and Alice go out to the fields and they pick the flowers, and then like you said with the pig, it was funny what the cue card said. It was like Alice picked it up and then she said, "I know a couple girls who have this name." And
Yeah. Yeah, so it's good. And one thing people will probably notice right away is it kind of lacks great special effects. I mean, it's 1915. What do you expect? For example, there's no growth or shrinkage. Like, Alice doesn't grow or Alice doesn't shrink. So when she's in the room with the many doors, she doesn't grow. And interestingly, when she's in the White Rabbit's house, she doesn't grow either. She just goes in, grabs the fan and the gloves, gives them to the rabbit, and that's that. There's none of that.
Yeah, and there's no eat me cookie or drink me potion on the table by the small door scene.
No,
The one really neat special effect that I noticed though is when the rabbit's like beckoning to her once she falls asleep on her sister's lap, how her like spirit like gets up and everything.
Yeah.
That just the way that looked was like really cool, especially for 1915 in those days when special effects were like
crude.
Seldom to none.
Yeah, and they were crude. I mean, yeah, this is weird. Instead of her chasing the rabbit, he kind of beckons her into Wonderland, and that was interesting. And this movie is really fast. I mean, by the time we got to the 19-minute mark, the book was half done. So that was very interesting. And the costumes, I thought, were the most faithful of all the Alices, especially if you compare them to the 1933 version. I thought these costumes looked like the drawing.
The fish and the frog costume were basically about the same.
Yeah.
The cat costume was like a little bit different from all the other ones.
Naturally.
It kind of looked like a stuffed animal at times.
Yeah, and the Duchess's mask was definitely different. This Duchess mask looked, I think, better in my opinion.
Yeah, it wasn't like all like basically like puffed out and distorted
and bloated.
And the cook's mask looked better because it didn't have the like the mustache or the big lips.
Mm-hmm.
It almost looked like that was like the woman's real face.
Yeah, we had a nice discussion about that. But some of these scenes, to me, just didn't quite work in the silent film format than others. For example, I thought the caterpillar scene didn't work in the silent version because it's probably the most verbal, because this version used a lot of title cards for that scene, like where they're reciting poetry.
Yeah.
I thought that didn't work, and the trial scene I didn't think worked in this version either. I felt like that didn't go very well.
Yeah, and then during the caterpillar scene, I thought it was weird. They had him like get up off of the mushroom, and then he was like crawling around on the ground. And then when they were like talking, they trying to recite the poetry, then they're showing like cut scenes of like this other stuff.
Yeah,
like this fat guy and this the young farmer.
Yeah, the poem is called Father William, and it's in the book, and because usually when they recite that poetry, you really don't see too much visual stuff to go with it. But honestly, this film, I think the copy that we ended up watching was an incomplete print because there's supposed to be a scene where Alice is giving the gloves to the rabbit. I saw a picture of it on a good website where they talk about the different Alice in Wonderland films. Unfortunately, it's no longer on the internet, so I can't.
Yeah, and there was no tea party scene, which is kind of a letdown because that's one of the classic scenes, and it leads into a lot of other things basically, and
like the
trial, and I noticed that the Mad Hatter came like later on in the trial, but without the tea party scene, you really don't know who he is.
Yeah, there's a picture. I saw a picture from this version on the internet of the Tea Party scene, so it was probably in there. So, but like I said, this print might have been incomplete.
And we never seen the Dormouse or the March Hare during the trial.
Actually, they're there in the trial. I mean, the March Hare is standing behind the Mad Hatter, and the Dormouse is sleeping on the floor. So they're there.
But they never really had much of a part. They didn't have any like movement or anything, so you didn't really notice unless you looked like really hard.
Yeah, and also I think some Looking Glass scenes were shot because I saw pictures of Viola Savoy, who plays Alice in this version, with Looking Glass characters like with Tweedledee and Dum in the chess pieces. So I'm convinced that there must have been a Looking Glass version filmed either separately or they were all one film at one point. But unfortunately, those scenes don't exist on the print that we got. So. I definitely recommend it. I think that, but the print that we got from Grapevine Video, I think it's definitely missing some scenes, but I definitely think it's worth checking out. I know there's a lot of people that won't watch a silent film because there's no sound except for the score, and you have to read the title cards and all stuff. But I definitely recommend it. It's different. I think it's very, for what it tried to do, it's very faithful to the books.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And plus, I'm one that likes. I like silent movies. I've been a big fan of silent movies for a long time, and when you had first told me that they did a silent version of Alice, I was like excited.
Yeah, so we'll probably have to check out this 1903 one sometime. Yeah. Okay, everybody, that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching, and as usual, leave your comments about the video, or if you happen to have seen this 1915 version, go ahead and do that, and we'll see you next time. Right, Dave?
Right.
Alrighty, see ya.